Hello, it's T with Teresa H Creates, and today's video is going to be an oldie but a goodie, a little blast from the past, mixed media style. So recently, in my last video, I created, well, not in the video itself, I did a flip through, but I did create 2 Winnie the Pooh themed journals. So I used Pooh's Adventure with Friends from Country Craft Creations to create this little journal. It's so cute. I'll link the flip through below if you're interested in seeing that one. And then Echo Park's Winnie the Pooh collection to make this little journal. Winnie the Pooh is one of my absolute favorites. So I was thinking I wanted to display these in my studio space, but I didn't want to just sit them up. And then I have a couple of other collections I still want to use as well. So there will be more Pooh journals. And so I thought, how am I going to display this? And then it occurred to me, I'm going to do something I used to do ages ago. So back in the day, I used to alter cigar boxes. This isn't anything new, isn't anything revolutionary. It's just maybe a reminder of something you haven't done in a while, or if it's something new to you, this is perfect. So I know a lot of people use cigar boxes as storage in their studio space, and I actually have several that I use as storage in my studio space that are not decorated because I think that the boxes themselves look fantastic. But I used to, years and years ago, probably 10 to 12 years ago, would decorate cigar boxes and then sell them at craft fairs. And these two are 2 of them that I made specifically for myself. So back when the Graphic 45 Steampunk Debutante came out, I made this box for myself because I absolutely love steampunk and it was just fantastic paper. So I decorated this. It is held up well because this has got to be at least a decade old, I would think, or close to it. And I created this little, it's a Scrabble tile. And I put an image on it and then used some glossy accents to epoxy over it. So it's been moved around and bumped around quite a bit, and it's still going strong. And I hope there's nothing personal in it. I was going to show you. Okay, I did decorate the inside as well. So the cover, and then I don't know if you can, let me see if I can tilt it. The insides are have paper or lined in paper, and then so is the bottom. Without giving away personal stuff, the bottom is decorated as well with some of the paper. So that one was a fully decorated box. And then the next one that I keep in my studio space is one that I keep personal sentimental things for my husband and I. And so this one is a cigar box. It's CAO tobaccos. Anyhow, it says this is a happy life. This one actually has the little closure and the hinge on it. It doesn't have the foils like this, so you can use any type of cigar box to do this with. This one I used like a sponge painting kind of a method and sanded it down. And then instead of using the strips to cover this, I ended up using torn paper edges and inked those up and put them on there. And then, and it's been through it. I damaged it when I was moving my studio space, but it's barely noticeable, so I'm not too concerned. It's got some dusty flowers on it, and then it says, this is a happy life. I did not decorate the inside of this box. I think I might have done this for a class, and so I ended up keeping it and didn't actually decorate it. So it's just empty, and I keep mementos from our life together in there, his dog tags and some of the leaves from the first roses he ever bought me in. And apparently some ribbon. My sweetest adventure always includes you. This came from a gift he got me. And it was a Winnie the Pooh gift. This is actually Winnie the Pooh themed ribbon. And I know it doesn't say it, but I remember which gift he got me, and that's what this ribbon is from. Okay, so I'm going to have to set that aside. Oh, that was a happy accident. Okay, so I am going to use that in something. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you just the different types of boxes. So these are fantastic for keepsake items. So I use cards, obviously mementos, things that I want to hold on to. But my sister, I think, has one. She keeps her cards in them that I give her, and sometimes she'll come up to my place and she'll go through my card stand and pick out a bunch of cards and say, I'm just replenishing my my card box. And so she keeps all the gift cards in that. And then my mother has one that she keeps some of her knickknacks in and stuff like that, little mementos. These are fantastic gifts for new mothers. I love giving them for new mothers because you can decorate it in some of the cutest little baby patterns, and it holds those items that you come home from the hospital with that you would like to keep but they're not really conducive for putting into a junk journal or a scrapbook. So like the baby's little hospital wristbands, the little caps, maybe the first pacifier, I don't know, whatever you would like to hold on to for baby. But those are fantastic gifts for that, boxes for that. And then I also use them, you know, sometimes as gifts if I don't have a gift bag and it's something that I want to decorate and put it into a whole something, then I will decorate a box and then put the gift inside of that. So I think that these will be perfect for my Pooh journals. So that was the thought, that I would have a little box in here for my Pooh journals. So I went to a local cigar shop. Not all cigar shops will sell their cigar boxes. Some of them just toss them, but a lot of them do. Just call around and ask them. I've paid as much as $2 for boxes of cigars to free. Mostly I'd pay $1 per box, but when I went to my local cigar box, because I purged all my boxes when I moved. I hadn't been making them in a while. I knew I wasn't going to be in my studio for a while, so I went ahead and purged all of my cigar boxes, so I didn't have any on hand. And I went to a local shop, and he was like, they're free. They're free. Take what you want. I have more than I will ever need or use. Take what you want. So I'm not going to use these two for my project, but I just wanted to show you an idea of some of these that have just some really fantastic works of art on them. This can be taken off with all the little warnings, and this right here, and this is Fat Bottom Betty cigars. So, but how cool is this? And this would be great for a Halloween or Dia de los Muertos themed journal. And it's, look at that. It is super thin. Let me measure it. So it's about 1.25 inches. And this is what it looks like inside. All those stickers can be removed. You wouldn't even have to do anything to the outside of it if you didn't want to. And then you could just decorate the inside right here if you wanted and leave everything else the way it was. It would look fantastic, but it's in great shape and it's already got the little hook on it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pick that up, especially since they're free. And then I grabbed this one. It's a little bit thicker, but it's also... this one says Leather Rose Petite Corona, but it's also got that great figure on it or artwork on it. And so I thought, again, with the spider web and the sugar skull, I thought this would be perfect for Halloween or Dia de los Muertos. And it's got such an odd shape. So it kind of tapers a little bit. But look at that. The inside is decorated, and then it just has the coolest shape. So I went ahead and picked that up. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these yet for sure, but my mind is thinking, it is racing. And then I wasn't sure, I didn't have my journals with me at the time, so I wasn't sure what was going to fit. So I picked up several boxes that I thought might work for my journals. And I really wanted a box that was kind of the traditional box that had the foils on it. So that's why I picked these up. I don't think that I'm going to use this one. There's nothing wrong with this. And you can actually apply the papers just by cutting out little notches here for the hinges. But this is one that's hinged. And I think that I'm just going to save it for another day. I'm not going to use this one. So it really came down to these two. And so I didn't measure. Let me see if my books, they will lay in that one just fine. They'll also stand up, which is kind of how I'm thinking of doing this. I'm thinking of putting like the little strings here to hinge this so it actually sits up. And then I have my books, my journals sitting or standing across it. So that's a good one. And then I have this one. Same thing, I'll hinge it up. And the journals fit in this as well. You know, and they'll stand in it. It's perfect for this one. So it's like right on the right size for this. But the other way I would determine how I'm going to do this is I'm going to use papers from these and seeing what looks well with the actual foils. So let me pull out some scrap papers from the collection and see. And see, that's why I was, okay, so these are great foils, and I think that this is a great size, but I'm going to set this one aside, and I think that I'm going to use this one because I like to use foils that will contribute to the overall look of the project. And those browns definitely will, the brown foil on that other one, but I think this one will kind of brighten it up because these papers are so cheerful. I think that it would look good. This blue and red will look good with the blue and red in these papers. And I think that that's the one. That's the one with all the bits of gold that I'm going to use. So I'm going to use this box here. So let me go ahead and clear off my working space, put my wax paper down because there will be some painting. We will be getting a little bit dirty. So you'll want to grab your apron as well. And so let me get my area set up and then we'll be back to start altering our cigar box. All right, I'm set up and back. So I decided to use my craft mat instead of using the wax paper for this project. I've got stuff all over the place. I try to clean up as much as possible, but yeah, that's always a work in progress. So as far as prepping your cigar box, I always try to look for cigar boxes that are in really good condition. I like to use, and that the foils look great on them. This one is great. Sometimes you'll have a little bit of tearing, but those can be glued down easily if it's minimal. But this one is in great condition. It's got really good foils on it. So it's got some tobacco in it still. I'm just trying to smell it. I don't really notice a huge smell on this one. Others might be a little bit more sensitive to it. Cigar smell doesn't bother me in general though. So I'm not really bothered by it, but I don't ever notice super strong smells. Occasionally I'll get a box that has a super strong smell, but I tend not to keep those. Anyhow, one other thing that I try to look for is the stickers, a lot of the warning labels. I like them in places where they can be easily covered and not on the foils themselves, because if I try to remove them from the foils, it always rips the foils. I've never been able to remove them without it ripping up the paper or the foils. So just like that. So, but I knew this one wasn't on the foil. That's why I was going to pull it off to give you an example. It always pulls it up. So I always want to make sure for myself personally that the warning labels aren't anywhere on the actual foils themselves. So this one looks great. I am going to decorate the top and the sides. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of decorating on the inside. So to prep this, it's got paper in here already, but it's loose paper. Let me see if I can get it up. Let me use my reverse tweezers, see if I can get in there. It's not. There we go. I'm going to try to get this out. Since I'm going to decorate this on the inside, I really don't want loose paper in here already, because I want to be able to lay down my own paper. And I'm just going to be careful about removing this because I want it to come off around the foil and not actually remove the foil. And keeping the foil on these as part of the decoration is a personal preference. You do you. If you don't want to keep the foil and you want to paint over the foil or cover the foil somehow, then feel free to do that. This is just my process and how I like to do things. Okay, so I have been able to remove the majority of the paper in here, and I'm not worried about a lot of it. I really wanted to just get up the loose bits that were in here because I didn't want the paper that I'm about to apply on top to pull up. So I went ahead and pulled out as much as I could. And then I'm going to go around and look for loose edges on my foil. I noticed that this over here, this little bit in the corner is up. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue there and glue that down just to give it kind of a neat appearance. And then I noticed that this foil over here is loose. So let me hold those down for a second and they should go right back into place. Is that one loose? Just a tad bit. All right, go ahead and get this corner. All right. And then something else that I like to do, depending on whether or not your box is really tight fitting. Can you hear that? To me, that's a little bit tight fitting, which is great. I mean, that's how it should be. But something I do is I'll take my bone folder and I'll kind of press these edges down. And sometimes it'll get that foil nice and flush, and it'll create just a little bit of room for that to open, for that lid to pop open a little bit easier. And I'll go ahead and get the sides of this as well. And this isn't necessary. This is just something I like to do if I notice that the lid is just a little bit tight. And then you'll notice, see, it pops open a lot easier now. Okay. And then this is purely aesthetics for me. This is an optional task that you can do on this as far as prepping your box. I'm going to put a little bit of this. I just have some Mars black acrylic latex paint here and a brush. And what I am going to do is I am going to just hit all these corners in here and all of these little edges. I'm going to put down a little bit of black paint. So what's going to happen is I am going to cut down panels that will be glued inside of here. And they don't always quite meet the edges. And just in case there are minor imperfections, I like to paint a little bit around the edges so that it looks a little bit more cohesive. And instead of seeing white, you're going to see the black paint. That's just something that I learned doing this for ages, and it's something that I continue to do. I like for it to have just kind of a nice, cohesive kind of a look. Even if it's just going to be for me and it's going to sit here in my studio, why not do it right? But also I wanted you to just kind of keep some things in mind when you're doing yours. If you don't mind that white or that bit of wood showing, then by all means, leave it. You could even use a little bit of a stain in there if it's a solid wood bottom instead of covered in paper. So something else to consider that you may or may not want to do. So I'm going to put a panel here, and it's going to come up to the foil. And I'm going to put a panel here and it will come up to the foil. The foils are deep enough that it's not going to impact the opening or closing of the box. However, this foil is right on the edge of where this lid is going to close. So if my paper happens to come up a little too far, it will stop the box from closing fully, or stop the lid from closing fully. Same here. Do you see how it's right along that edge exactly? So I am going to take my paint right along this edge against this foil, because my paper may end up being a little bit shorter than this foil. It may not quite meet that foil because I don't want the paper to stop the lid from closing fully. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those, and then I'll be back to show you the finished interior. All right, and I'm back. I've painted the edges all the way up to the foil. I just want to make, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to make sure that there isn't going to be any white exposed between the paper and the foil itself. So while this is kind of drying, it shouldn't take too long. Let's go ahead and look at the papers that we have. So we're going to be decorating the outside and also the inside of the box. So there's a lot to consider here. I'm going to use papers from both collections. So I pulled out some of the scraps that I have. Let me see if I have some more in this bag. I do have a few more scraps. Okay, looks like that's all of the big scraps. Okay, so typically what I like to do is really put a focal point here and a focal point here. So on the outside lid and on the inside lid, and then on the panels themselves that go around the inside and outside, I tend to do more background pages or patterned pages there, papers there, and then something fun on the bottom. So let's see. I don't mind mixing and matching these. That is super cute. I think that might be my bottom. I think that might be the bottom of this box. So I'm going to set that aside. These flowers are really cute along with this green, but I really want everything to say Winnie the Pooh. So I'm going to set it aside. I want it to be very Pooh specific. Same with the bees, because I think these look like flies, honestly, and then the gingham on the back. I'm going to set that aside. So it was easy to roll those out. That's a contender. This one is a contender. This one is a contender. I like that one as well. Let's see. I've also got this guy. I've got the 100-acre wood. This one is the 100-acre. Okay, that's big enough. I just want to make sure that was going to be big. That one's also the 100-acre wood. So 100-acre wood would be a good one as well. Let's do... This is so hard to decide because there are so many really, really cute papers. I think that if I cut this up into smaller panels to put around the edges, I'm really going to lose a lot of the images that are in here. These are a little bit tighter, so I think that I'm going to use these on the panels. I think I'm going to use this and this on those panels. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this one on the sides of the outside, and this one, because it shows the characters and they're a little bit longer strips, I'm going to use on the longer pieces on the outside. So that's the outside taken care of. And the inside panels, I think that on the inside panels, I am going to use this Winnie the Pooh. And I'm going to put this guy on the inside. Yes, that makes sense to me. So that's going to be on all of the inside panels. And then this guy is going to be the bottom. So I need to find something for the top of the lids. I think I might do that on the top of the lid on the inside. And I think that I may do either this guy or the 100-acre wood, the Echo Park one, because these are pretty big images. So I think I might use this one on the top, but either way, I think I'm going to use one of those Unity stamps and use one of the stamps and stamp something and then put that over it as decoration. So those will both go as maybes. So as I cut these down and place them and get a really good idea of how they're going to look in those spots, that will further help me decide as far as overall how does that look all together with the box. So let me go ahead and do some cuts and then I'll be right back. I'm just going to use a ruler, and what I do is I just kind of measure the insides and I cut right on, and then I will try to fit it, and sometimes it's a little bit tight and you bring it off and you want to just take off, I mean, like 1/8 of an inch at a time to make those fit in there, and you kind of just set them in there and work them until they're done. And I'll show you that part. So I'm just going to make the cuts and then we'll actually do the placing together, and I will be right back. All right, I've made my cuts and I'm going to set them in just to make sure that they are going to look good. The hardest one to actually apply and to put down is going to be that bottom panel. I always have the hardest time with that one. And these aren't glued, so this is just the sample. I didn't have enough of that paper with the larger Pooh Bear on it, so I ended up, let me get some tape and just hold those back. I ended up getting my 6x6 pad out and getting the little smaller print for these panels on the inside. Okay. And it looks like, see, it looks like these go all the way to the bottom, and it looks, because these aren't, and this is why I say you have to make your cuts and then you kind of just play around with it, because these aren't perfect. The box isn't constructed perfectly. The foils aren't lined up perfectly. So you're not going to be able to use that. So if it's all the way down to the bottom, you can see that the foil isn't exactly the same. So it may be a matter of lining these up maybe a little bit from the bottom, so there's a little bit of a gap there, and it overlapping the foil just a tad so that it, you know, it doesn't leave that spot showing there. So something else I could have done was taken that black all the way across here, but I'm not really worried about it because I'm not worried about the lid not being able to close because this is too high, because it sits on this panel here. So, but that's what it looks like. So inside, and I'll move those around as I'm doing it and adjusting it. And then perfect little bear here, or Pooh Bear here, and then that is what the inside looks like. I think it's adorable. Okay, so the one thing that I'm going to do with this that's a little bit different than I haven't done with any of the others is that I cut some of this ribbon down, and I'm going to find a way to glue this underneath this paper, and then let me tape that up a little bit so it's sitting there, and then glue this under this top panel so that it catches, so that because I want this to sit up. I don't want it to sit all the way back because I plan on stacking those journals inside here and not really keeping it closed, but leaving it open. So I've got to figure out a way to attach this behind so that when it closes, this will fold up into it. But when it's open, it'll sit open. I don't have to prop anything in the back. It'll actually stand open like this. So I'm going to glue, I cut 2 of these down. I'm going to glue them on the inside and then put those panels in, and then I'll try to do the top panel last. So first, I get to ink the edges though. And I was trying to decide how I was going to ink them. I think that I'm going to use black soot because I've got that black in here. I think I'm going to go ahead and ink all the edges in black soot and then get them put down. And before that though, I'm going to go ahead and glue down the one side of these ribbons, probably like right in here. Well, let's go ahead and do it. And I'm not sure which glue to use. I'm going to go ahead and use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to put quite a bit of this ribbon down here just because I don't want to stress out that paper too much. So that's that side. And then if I try to match this up, let's see. I went about halfway. So about there. Hope that you can see the inside of this. Move my ribbon. Okay. There we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I'll put my paper on top of it after I've inked it up. So I'm going to go do the inking, and then I'll be right back so that we can apply those panels. All right, I've inked up my edges and I'm ready to start gluing down my sides. I'm going to position this so hopefully you might be able to see it some while I'm putting these down. So I'm going to glue the papers down. I am going to use, in this case, a matte medium. I've never used this with art glitter glue. I've never done that. When I first started, I used a combination of tape runner and Mod Podge, but I think I'm going to leave the tape runner out of it. I don't think that it holds as well long term. So I'm going to use a And I'm low on my Mod Podge, so I decided I would go ahead and just use the matte medium that I have because it's a new bottle. I just purchased it. It's I went to it. They opened up a Jerry's Artorama near me, and so I had to go check it out, and I ended up purchasing some matte medium that they had there, and it's New York Central Art Supply matte medium. So we'll see how this works. It's kind of thin. I'm a little bit surprised. So I want it kind of low. I don't know if you can see that. All right, and then I'm going to go over it as well. This is optional. You don't have to do this. Some of mine I went over, and then others I did not. So it's definitely not something that you have to do. It will seal the images, especially if they're going to get a lot of use, which I think that mine, with the journals sitting in them and them coming in and out and me showing them off, mine are going to tend to get a lot of use. So I'm going to go ahead and do the matte medium, the whole thing. And I'm kind of just pressing this paper down right here around where that ribbon is to make sure that it's nice and adhered. And it feels like it's adhered. Like I said, that matte medium is a little bit thinner than what I'm used to. I used to use golden all the time, and that's much thicker kind of stuff. Even the Liquitex is a little thicker than this. I wanted to go ahead and get these sides down though, just because I've got those ribbons, and in my mind that little ribbon hinge is going to kind of work, but I don't know. In operation or in practicality, it may not work. So we'll find out. Find out soon enough. All right, I'm going to put that in, press it down. Hopefully you can see that. And then I'm going to go right back over it, so that will reinforce that glue, and then also seal this up. Okay, and I can see it's coming up around that ribbon, so I'm going to go ahead and hold it down. Make sure I've got some good coverage. I'm kind of spreading that glue around, but also holding down, pushing down areas near that ribbon. All right, there we go. All right, now let me put some down on the bottom, and then I'll put my bottom piece in. Get that Mod Podge in there. So much glue. I'm telling you, I've got to get used to this silicone brush. I ended up using, I think, a lot more glue than necessary doing this. Ends up being very juicy. Okay, that looks like good coverage. All right, when I do this, I'm going to kind of line it up. I always do it from the bottom and then just kind of let it fall, because I want to line it up like kind of in the center here. Okay, and that is perfect. I'm going to go in with the silicone brush because I also want to make sure that it's nice and flush with the bottom. And it won't hurt to seal this, just because, like I said, it's going to get so much use. Back in the day, I sealed some of mine and I didn't others. It really depended on what kind of paper it was. If it was a heavily embellished kind of paper, like a glitter paper, or something that had some embossing on it, I didn't necessarily seal those. But if they were regular papers, just plain pattern paper, I would seal those. But I didn't with that Steampunk Debutante that I had out, that box that I did. I did not seal on that one, and you saw it's been holding up just fine. It has held up through the years just fine, and I did not seal it. Okay. So I'm just going to let this dry some. And get that top part of this situated. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the ribbon on the top of this to get that kind of situated. And then I'll need to, I think I want it to sit right about there. So I'm thinking that my ribbon, I don't know if I should twist it or not. I don't think so. I think it's just going to come out like this. But then I'm going to have my paper behind it, so I don't want to pull it too tight. Does that make sense? I think that that is how I'm going to do that. So let me go ahead and kind of mark where I need to glue those down, and then I'm going to get that glued down. And fingers crossed this works. So I'll be back in just a moment. All right, well, I glued on that ribbon and held it in place while it got a really good attachment, let it dry, and then I just attached the top panel here. And I've got it propped up. I'm going to leave it open to dry. You don't want to close it to dry because any glue that you might, even if you're not using the little hinges, I don't even know if those hinges are going to work. I'm trying that out for the first time. That is 100% an experiment on my part. But you definitely don't want to close it regardless, just because if you've got any excess glue or Mod Podge on the outsides of this until it's completely dry, it may end up gluing your lid closed. So I'm going to let it sit and really dry. All right, I believe that the inside is mostly dry, but I'm going to give it a little bit more time. And I thought we would go ahead and decorate. I think I'm just gonna tape this with this mint tape so that that lid doesn't come flying open. But I thought we would take some time to go ahead and decorate the outside of the box. So I went ahead and cut down some strips, and this one is the Eeyore, Pooh Bear, and Piglet strip. So it's a little bit longer than the actual foil or the space needed within the foil. However, I'm going to go ahead and cover it because it's, I didn't want to break up the characters. So let me go ahead and put some Mod Podge. The Mod Podge just seems to be working better than that that matte medium I have. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do with that because that was so super thin. Do not recommend. It just wasn't even holding anything. And so I want to at least make sure it's semi-even and covering the blue spots. So I can get that down just a tad, up just a tad. I told you, it's hard to get them exactly perfect just because the foils themselves just aren't perfect. So don't let that bother you if it's not exact. As long as you're close enough, it's not a problem. Also, I will tell you this. So when you're doing the Mod Podge and it's getting, it's bubbling up a little bit because it's getting those fibers wet, it'll pop up some. Just push it back down. You don't have to be super aggressive with it. As it dries, they'll shrink back up and they'll lay flat again. So don't worry about that. That is not a cause for concern at all, just because you get a little bit of the bubbling. And I'm talking about a small amount, not a huge amount of bubbling. You also want to be careful when you're doing this because you're getting it so wet, and these papers, the cardstock papers, are a little bit thicker. If you're doing it in really humid areas, it can bubble up quite a bit, and that can be a little bit scary when you're working on the project. This isn't something I would do necessarily if it were raining outside, maybe, because it will bubble up. That extra moisture in the air will cause it to bubble up. Let me get some of that extra off. I got excited. All right. And this is a different scene. So I had different papers. And I'm going to let those dry for a bit. And then on the other side, we're going to do the owl, rabbit, and Tigger on the back side. And then the same image as this one on the other side of the box. But I'm going to let it dry, and then I will put those on. All right, the sides are all on. Let me turn it this way. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Isn't it super cute? Super, super cute. So you can see here, this is still drying. This is the one I just put on. It has a little bit of that bubbling or kind of that warping. Don't overwork it. It will dry and it will lay flat. This also had some bubbling and it's completely flat now. So as it dries, it will flatten out. This one is dry. This one's still drying a little bit, so it's got a little bit of that warping in there, but it'll flatten out. So don't feel like you have to constantly be in there doing this. The fibers will shrink back down some. So now let's work on the top. So I wanted to I didn't want to cut down these images so that they looked funny. That's why some of them are a little bit longer or wider than the actual box itself, or the actual space within the foils, just because I didn't want to make weird cuts on it. So that's one option, and that's super cute. Here's another option, the 100-acre wood. I'm not loving that, so let's toss that aside. And then here's another option. I get it to move over just a tad. There we go. It's cute, but I really, really think that this works better with it, just because of those blues and reds in it, and I think it really goes nicely with the actual foil. I think so. So I'm going to ink those edges up. I have not done that yet. And I don't know. And the only reason, the inking of the edges is not mandatory at all. The only reason why I do it is because that's just how I've always done it. I've always inked the edges. Now, I don't particularly care for the white core, and so a lot of times I'll ink the edges just to kind of finish it off. For me, a lot of it's just kind of in the details like that. When you're working on projects like this, it's just, does it look good to have that white core showing? On occasion, when I'm card making, it does make sense to have that white core showing. It doesn't take away from the project at all, but then other times, I think it does. Let me remove this tape. I'm going to go ahead and put this down. All right. I didn't do the top of that with the Mod Podge. I think I'm going to leave that blank just because I'm going to put something else on top of it and I'll seal it at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and just let this dry. I'm going to pull out my stamps and figure out what I'm going to stamp on this as a topper. All right, so I have this book, and it's a Winnie the Pooh book by A.A. Milne, and I just took some, it's got these beautiful illustrations in it. Anyway, I just took a book page and I tore a portion of it, and I wanted to do a stamp and have it kind of catty cornered like this. Just kind of turn it a little bit, so when I stamp it, that's the way it's going to be. But I did want to make sure it had Winnie the Pooh on it, so that's why I tore it the way I did. And then here are my stamps, and I'm thinking that this is the one I want to go with, and it's Pooh and Piglet, and it says, it says, Piglet, how do you spell love? And then Pooh answers, you don't spell it, you feel it. And I think that that's the one I'm going to go with. I have this great one of Eeyore. I have this one that says things are looking up. I've got this one, what if I fall? Oh, but what if you fly? This great one about footprints. This Oh Hello, which is also a cute one. This one, Forever With You. This is adorable too. Some people care too much. It's called Love. Oh, there are too many cute ones. This is hard to decide. And I got these from Unity Stamps. If anyone's interested, they're these really great red rubber stamps. Absolutely love them. They are 100% worth it. And then Pooh and Piglet here. I think I'm going to do this one. I think I'm going to just stick with what I originally planned on and do this one. Let me grab my Misty. I'm going to do this in the Misty. And I wanted it turned just a little bit. How did I have that on here? How much of a turn did I have that on? Not too much. It's just a slight angle. So we're going to give it just a slight angle. And then let me get this laid out. I don't know if I'm going to do the, I mean, I've done everything else in the black, so I guess I should do it in the black ink as well. Hopefully it'll fit, and it fits perfectly. Let me move this up so it's in view. And then this one is, how do you spell love? Okay, so that's the Piglet. I was just about to straighten this. Let me move these guys down a little bit. Let's see here. And then that's, or I actually don't even need those, do I? This is cute enough as it is. I think that I'll just do these guys on here. Do I want to do the brown or the blue though? I mean the black. Brown or black, brown or black. I've got this VersaFine Onyx black, and then I've also got the pine cone. I think everything else I've done is in black, so I'm just going to stick with the black. Let me ink that up. This is a really juicy stamp pad, so I probably won't have to stamp more than once to get a good impression. Yeah, perfect. Too cute, too cute, too cute. Okay. Let me wipe off this stamp. And I'll set these guys aside. There's the holder for that. Look at those guys. Isn't that adorable? So cute. Okay. Where is... Just put some glue down here. And I don't want to smear this a whole lot, but I do want to just get some of those edges. You have to be careful with putting glue, Mod Podge or matte medium over the distress inks, because it will smear them. It'll tend to kind of smear them a little bit. So let me put him down. So honestly, I would say this project, I'm a little bit out of practice because it's been a while since I've done this, but honestly, it's probably, this box right here, probably about an hour. It's longer in the video format just because I'm trying to remember steps and because I got to make sure that you guys see things as I'm stepping through it. So it's a little bit longer in video format, and then I'm not including drawing time. Drawing time is obviously a little bit longer as well, but all in all, I would say probably about an hour project, maybe a little bit quicker once you kind of get the hang of it. So this isn't something that's very difficult or time consuming, and it makes a really great little gift box to match a journal or a set of cards or whatever. If the inside, we'll go ahead and open up the inside while this is drying. See, it's already starting to lay down real nice. Yeah, it's drying. It'll lay down on those sides. Okay, so there we go. Let's do a flip through here. Turn it around, flip it completely. How cute is that? I need to be careful with this because it's still drying. And then we'll open it up so you can see the inside. And I got my ribbons attached. So this is obviously something I'll need to work on in the future because I thought that I had them just right. And obviously one of them is a little bit longer than the other. And so it's not grabbing and holding with both of them, but it still holds. And I ended up gluing it to the sides here of the box as well, so that it didn't put too much stress on the paper and start pulling that in. So anyhow, I think it'll work just fine though. But let me tilt it. There we go. There's the cover. Here's the bottom, the sides. Super cute, super cute. And you see all the black space between? If I had not painted that in the black, it would have just been all the white space showing. And to me, that's just kind of not a finished project. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're working with these, if this is something that you decide you want to give a try. Also, if this intimidates you, all the cutting and everything, do collage. I've collaged a lot of the interiors with book pages and then just stamped on it, over it, and then sealed it, and it's been beautiful. It's really beautiful, and collage will work in all the corners and everything, and you can be really exact and ink it up and everything, so it still looks nice when you're doing collage as well. So don't let the cutting factor intimidate you at all. So now I've got, let me see, yeah, that's dry. So I'm looking for my journals. What did I set them aside so that they wouldn't get dirty. And then there you go. How cute is that? Let me turn that. That is absolutely adorable. Isn't that the cutest? So cute, so cute. We still have a little bit of drying time left. I'll set it aside and let it dry completely, but it's adorable. This is exactly what I wanted for these Pooh journals. Some other things to think about. It could take you longer to complete this depending on how elaborate you want to go with your top. The tops of these can be decorated to the nines. Flowers, metal embellishments, I mean, just done up like you would the cover of a journal. You can also add things that I've done in the past. I've added knobs. So I've kind of drilled in a little bit here and then screwed in the little knobs that you can get from Tim Holtz. And then that way it has a little handle that you can flip open, that you can pull open. So that has worked well. I've also used buttons on the inside. So I've attached buttons and ribbon on the inside of this so that it's clear of this part of the, can get all in frame. So it's clear of this part of the box, but had a button and a ribbon attached here so that when you closed it, there was a ribbon hanging out and you could use that to open it up as well. And you can add feet to it. So the, I don't believe they're made anymore. And I picked up a bunch and I have some, but the Tim Holtz metal feet that he used to make. You can use those to put feet on it. I've also picked up before at the craft store, you can get the small balls, wooden balls that have the flat surface, and I've painted those up to match the box, and then I've attached them to the bottoms with a really nice glue, and that way they had feet and sat up. You can also just put little felt pads on the bottom so that they're nice and smooth and they don't scratch up any surface, but they have the little felt feet on the bottom. So just some things to consider, because honestly, you can do anything with these boxes. This was a great project for me to get back into this, and I'm excited about doing something with those other two boxes I showed in the beginning, the really pretty wood boxes, the leather rose and the fat bottom Betty boxes. So those will be fun. Anyhow, I hope you learned something new, or I reminded you of something you forgot about and hadn't done in a while. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And until next time, bye.